Hello everyone. I just wanted to share my opinion about this article published in the Global Times about Huawei and the situation in Poland. I am from Poland, and first, before we go into this is from Wikipedia. The Global Times is a daily Chinese tabloid newspaper under the auspices of the People's Daily newspaper, focusing on international issues from the Chinese government's perspective. I think this is pretty true. Go ahead and do some research yourself. So, in my opinion, this is the Chinese government speaking. And this is posted in the editorial section and opinion section. So after an employee of Huawei was arrested on alleged spying charges, Joachim Brudziński, Poland's internal affairs minister, called for the European Union and NATO to work on a joint position over whether to exclude Huawei from their markets. When a spokesman from Poland's Secret Service chief tweeted the arrest on Friday, he used a @ to attract the attention of the US Department of State, FBI, CIA, and NATO. Warsaw's moves confirm the suspicion that the high-profile arrest has the political purposes of catering to the US actions against Huawei. So first, they're kind of complaining, right, that they used an @ signal to attract the attention. And this is pretty funny because the Chinese government, whenever you talk about human rights issues or workers' rights, or if you see any interview with a government official, a Chinese government official, or from a big company, and you talk about a topic he doesn't want to talk about, so the first thing he says usually is, "I don't get into politics." I don't want to talk politics, even if it's a politician. The second thing is, he usually says, these are Chinese internal affairs, and please do not interfere in them. But at the same time here, they're interfering in the way our government is doing their job. Warsaw's move, and they confirm the suspicion. That means they have always been suspicious of, I don't know, Poland and the US working together? Well, you just need to read history to know about that. Very few public espionage disputes have occurred between China and East Europe. Okay, so that means public espionage disputes. So there maybe are a lot of other ones we don't know about that weren't public. Probably. I mean, if they're writing public. Warsaw claims that the alleged allegation was directed at a personal behavior instead of the company, but how it handled the issue has already damaged Huawei's reputation. Although clearly aware of the affair's special resonance, Warsaw is wooing Washington while playing tricks on Beijing. And I just wanted to say that the way they're using, the language they're using, someone could say that this is just bad problem with translations, right? But many times I have talked with Chinese people, and sometimes I've read something and I wanted to know, hey, how is this the way they really wanted it to sound? And in many cases I was told that, yeah, this is how it's supposed to be, right? And I think in this case it is supposed to be like this, and in Chinese you would hear something very similar to what is here, like with words like, playing tricks on Beijing, wooing Washington, and things like that. Warsaw claims that the allegation was directed at a personal... Okay, and now they're saying that, you know what? Warsaw is telling everyone, is trying to lie to everyone that this was not about Huawei, the company, but it was only about a personal, just this person who was spying. But instead of, if it was... This is what Beijing thinks, the Global Times thinks, is that what Poland should have done is... if there was a problem with a spy, they should have just contacted them, not in a public way, just quietly, and they should have solved the issue. They shouldn't have, talked about it publicly, because Poland is aware of this special resonance that would have, and which is bad, which the Global Times thinks is bad, right? Poland fears Chinese retaliation, so it is calling for a joint position with the EU and NATO so as to share the pressure. Meanwhile, such a call helps the US expand suppression of Huawei into the EU and NATO. I don't think Poland is really fears, China. I mean, some politicians, maybe the ones that are close to China, and the guys that have something on the line. But I don't think that the typical Polish person is afraid of that. We had some things in the media saying, since they put, they caught the Canadians, right, that were in China. Some of the media was saying in Poland that that now probably some Polish people in China will be put into prison or something. So we did talk about it in our media, but it's not that like, Polish people are trembling or something, or the Polish government is trembling that something like that is happening. Hopefully it won't happen, right? And it's saying that, we shared with EU and then NATO so that we share the pressure of that blow. Somehow, what pressure, It's like we're afraid of getting hit by China and then we want to share the pressure. Well, we are in the EU, and, I guess you could say that Poland should handle their own things. That's also a way of looking at it. But from another point of view, well, the EU, we're part of it, and we do things together, right? So Huawei's equipment is widely applied in Europe's 4G networks, and no evidence proves that Huawei's equipment has damaged European network security. Really? How do you know that? How do you know that, Global Times, mouthpiece of the Communist Party? How do you know that, right? Did you do your own investigation? Europeans' 4G network is independent and free. Really? But will the continent obey Washington's command in the communication industry, starting from the 5G? Here they're saying, like, Europe, these Washington guys, they are commanding you to obey them. They're trying to, start a conflict between Europe and Washington. I mean, there already is one, right? But they're trying to, make it even more. And they're saying that, we have this 4G thing going on all the time. You're just going to start not working with us at 5G? Why not, right? Why not? That's a stupid argument. Warsaw is guiding Europe in the wrong direction. No. Communism used to be guiding Europe in the wrong direction. And I don't think Warsaw, by putting a spy, by imprisoning a spy, right? It's not a wrong direction. It's the right direction. It's the morally correct direction. As a middle-class country in Europe with limited influence and historical experiences of being invaded, Poland still worries that Russia's threat has not been truly eliminated. So now they don't really care about Poland, about what the Poles think, I guess, and they're just talking to Europe. Hey, Europe, this is just a middle-class country, whatever that means, right? They have limited influence. Well, again, go back to history, and you can see that in history, sometimes very few people were able to have a great influence on the world. And Poland, if you look at the history, also had a pretty good influence on the breakdown of communism in Europe. But that's a conversation for another time. Okay, so we're scared of Russia, and the threat hasn't been eliminated. Poland ranks a maximum security guarantee from the US at the very top of its security agenda and is endeavoring to realize a US military presence in the country. So yeah, so that's why we're rooting for the US because we're scared of Russia. And that's why we want the US in our country, and that's why we're doing this. We're doing it for the US, right? Well, personally, living in Poland, being born in Poland, I think it's a good thing, right? For allies to work together on protecting the country. However, Warsaw's anxiety is not universal in Europe, especially Western Europe. Really? Okay, the Czech Republic just said that the government official was lying. They also had things connected with Huawei. In Sweden, the behavior of the government when there was that issue with with that hotel thing from Chinese people who wanted to get into a hotel. They couldn't. And this whole media frenzy around that thing started going around, and the Chinese government was, doing the same thing as they're doing now, right? Trying to bully Poland by these kind of articles and things. So I think it's pretty universal in Europe, I would say, the anxiety, right? Except maybe people who have no idea what they're talking about, and they're, just saying, hey, why don't we use Huawei? It's cheaper, blah, 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 etc., etc. Most European countries are not proactive as Poland in picking a side between China and the US. Okay, so are you saying that we're allowed to pick a side? Are you telling us we're allowed to pick a side, but we can't be proactive about it? Right? Something's not right. Most European countries are not proactive as Poland in picking a side between China and the US and voluntarily helping Washington to exclude Huawei. All right, so we're doing it voluntarily? I thought you just said that we're afraid of Russia, and we want to be friends with the US. Now you're saying we're doing it voluntarily. All right. Some European countries are keeping Huawei at a distance out of security concerns. You said it yourself. True. True news. True news. That's a good thing you're saying, right? You're telling the truth, I guess. For Huawei's equipment or US... This sentence doesn't make sense. And I'm not trying to mock them, but if they're really trying to use their government newspaper to, give information about the government, they should be sure to make sure what they're saying here is written in a way that is totally understandable and that doesn't give any room for misunderstanding, right? Because this is just some European countries are keeping Huawei at a distance out of security concerns for Huawei's equipment. Okay, the concerns for Huawei's equipment or US coercion. I don't know what to say. They're basically saying, that the countries are afraid of using the equipment, and they're afraid of U.S. coercion, I guess. Huawei is China's best private high-tech enterprise, and its suffering is symbolic. No, it's not symbolic. It's true. The suffering is true. Okay, it's not symbolic, and this is basically they're saying that you're trying to make a scapegoat out of the company, and they didn't do anything wrong. We're just trying to symbolically punish you or something. It's nonsense. And it's not, and if it is suffering, it is not symbolic. If you do something bad and someone punishes you for that, right? That's a good thing. The Chinese government must help the company defend its legitimate rights and interests. Okay, the Chinese government is going to help you defend rights and interests. It must do it. Okay, if you must, go ahead and do it. It's your company, right? Otherwise, if Huawei suffers a severe blow, it will jeopardize the confidence of all of Chinese society, and the outside world would consider it doable to bully Chinese enterprises. So this will jeopardize. Well, the communist China is pretty fragile, huh? If one company falls for some reason, it jeopardizes the whole, the whole confidence of the Chinese society. And the outside world will consider it doable to bully Chinese enterprises. This is very interesting what they're saying here. And I think this is a piece worth reading again and again. I've read it at least 5 times already. And it's interesting because they're telling the truth here sometimes, It's like they're saying it's doable. It's like the Western countries, please wake up. It is doable to bully Chinese enterprises. They're not holy, right? If they do something bad, you can actually do something against them. And you should. So the Chinese government's defense of Huawei's overseas rights and interests has been taken as evidence that the company is close to the government. Really? Has someone talked about that? That we think that because the Chinese government is defending Huawei, that they're close. Duh, of course they're close. It's a Chinese company, right? So I don't know why they're saying that. It's like they're trying to explain. They're trying to say, hey, no, we're not close to them. A few Chinese have clamored that the government does not have sufficient reasons to use national resources to settle a private company's overseas disputes. The government must turn its back on such voices. So, but basically what they're saying here is, guys, we, the Chinese government, there are citizens in our country that are against what we're doing, but we have to, what are they saying here? Turn our back on those voices. Even though our people are saying that we shouldn't do this, we are going to do this because protecting a native company, be it state-owned or private, is the government's responsibility. Really? Oh yeah, it's communist China, so of course it's the government's responsibility, because every company is the government's responsibility. So we're saying that's what they're saying here. Beijing should resolutely negotiate with Warsaw and conduct relative countermeasures. It should. Good for you. Thanks for letting us know. Helping the world understand that Poland is an accomplice of the US, right? So they're basically saying that the US did something bad, right? And that's why Poland is the accomplice of the US. Well, duh. Yeah, we're not accomplices, but we're cooperating in this issue, right? Not only us, other countries are doing it too. China must not be soft at this point. Okay, was it soft at any other point? Maybe. Beijing will not bully Warsaw, thank you very much, and it is unworthy to do so. Unworthy? Like, I don't think they try. Some people are saying that what they're saying here is that it's not worth doing so, but I don't think they would use the word unworthy in this case to do that. So I actually think they're saying that Warsaw is not worthy to be bullied. But the latter must pay for the offense. So, like Chinese government of China, thank you for not bullying us, bullying Warsaw. Okay, I guess the rest of Poland will be safe. But Warsaw must pay for this offense. So I just wanted to share my thinking about this, that I do really truly believe this is Orwellian nonsense, and I want more and more people to see, what's going on. And, this is the mouthpiece of the Chinese government, and this is how politicians usually, communist politicians usually think and talk. That's how I see it. That's my opinion. Have a great day, and I hope this was helpful.